Admiral Dae-ho Kim stood in the command center of New Seoul Station, watching Earth rotate slowly below. The blue marble looked peaceful from here, but Dae-ho knew that peace was about to end. The emergency signal had been blinking red for 3 minutes now, and that meant only one thing: first contact. "Sir, we're getting a transmission from deep space," said Lieutenant Yuna Park, her fingers dancing across the control panel. "It's not from any human ship." Dae-ho felt his stomach drop. Humanity had been exploring space for over 300 years, but they had never found intelligent alien life. Until now. "Put it on the main screen," he ordered. The screen flickered, and suddenly the command center was filled with an image that made everyone freeze. A massive structure floated in space, bigger than any human city. It was made of dark metal that seemed to absorb light, with strange symbols glowing across its surface. In front of it stood a creature that barely looked real. The alien was tall and thin, with skin that changed colors like oil on water. Its eyes were completely black, and when it spoke, the words came from a device floating next to it. "People of Earth," the alien said in perfect English, "I am Speaker Velthar of the Galactic Council. We represent 47 worlds across this galaxy. We have been watching you." Dae-ho glanced at Dr. Mira Park, the station's head scientist. She looked as shocked as he felt. They had always wondered if humans were alone in the universe. Now they had their answer. "Your species has been expanding across space at an alarming rate," the speaker continued. "In the past 50 years, you have claimed 23 new worlds. This cannot continue." The alien's image seemed to grow larger on the screen, more threatening. "The Galactic Council has decided that humanity must be controlled. You will immediately stop all expansion into new star systems. You will abandon the 23 worlds you have recently colonized. You will submit to council oversight of all your remaining colonies." Dae-ho felt anger building in his chest. Who were these aliens to tell humanity what they could and couldn't do? "You have 30 of your Earth days to comply," the speaker said. "If you refuse, the council will use force to make you obey. This is not a negotiation. This is an order." The transmission ended, leaving the command center in complete silence. "Sir?" Lieutenant Park asked quietly. "What do we do?" Dae-ho stared at the now empty screen. On one of those 23 worlds the aliens wanted humanity to abandon, lived his daughter Soo-jin and her family. His granddaughter had just started school there. The thought of alien soldiers forcing them from their home made his hands shake with rage. "Get me a direct line to Prime Minister Hyun-soo Choi," he said, "and send copies of this transmission to every human colony and ship in space. Everyone needs to see this." While the communications officer worked, Dr. Mira Park approached Dae-ho. "Admiral, I've been studying the transmission. The alien technology is clearly more advanced than ours, but there's something interesting." "What?" "Look at how standardized everything appears. The ship design, the translator device, even the way the speaker spoke. It's like they follow very strict rules about everything." Dae-ho nodded. "You think that might be a weakness?" "Maybe. Humans are good at thinking outside the box. If these aliens always follow the same patterns, then they might not be ready for human creativity," Dae-ho finished. 2 hours later, Dae-ho stood in the conference room watching the emergency session of the United Earth Assembly. Representatives from every human world filled the screen, some in person on Earth, others joining from colonies light years away. Prime Minister Hyun-soo Choi called for order. "We've all seen the transmission. The question before us is simple. Do we submit to alien rule or do we fight?" President Soo-jin Yang of Mars Colony spoke first. "These aliens think they can just show up and tell us where we can and can't live? My grandparents died building the first Mars settlements. I won't abandon their work." "But look at the size of that ship," said Governor Jin-A Lim from Europa Station. "How can we fight something like that?" Captain Jaewon Lee, whose ship was currently exploring the Outer Rim, spoke up. "Governor Lim, humans have always been told we couldn't do something. We couldn't fly. We couldn't survive in space. We couldn't travel between stars. We proved them wrong every time." Murmurs of agreement filled the room. Dae-ho watched the faces on the screen and saw something he recognized. The same stubborn determination that had driven humans to leave Earth in the first place. "The aliens made one big mistake," said Dr. Tae-young Kim from the Titan Research Station. "They gave us 30 days. That's time to prepare." Prime Minister Choi stood up. "I've been listening to all of you, and I hear the same thing from every world. We didn't come this far to give up now. But I want everyone to understand what we're choosing. This could mean war. Then we fight, said President Yang firmly. Our ancestors fought for every piece of land on Earth. Now we fight for our right to exist among the stars. One by one, every representative voted. When it was over, the result was clear. Humanity would not submit. As the meeting ended, Daeho found himself thinking about his granddaughter again. She was only 7 years old, born on a world that hadn't even existed when he was young. Would she grow up in a galaxy where aliens told humans where they could live? Or would she grow up free? Admiral, Lieutenant Park called out. We're getting reports from across human space. Every colony, every ship, every station is saying the same thing. No surrender. Daeho smiled grimly. The aliens thought they were dealing with a primitive species that would quickly submit. They were about to learn that humans were anything but predictable. Send a message to all fleet commanders, he ordered. Tell them to prepare for war. And tell them something else. We're going to show these aliens what happens when you threaten human families. As New Sol Station prepared for what was coming, Daeho looked out at Earth one more time. The blue marble still looked peaceful, but he knew that peace was over. The question now was whether humanity would fight as free beings or die as slaves. He already knew the answer. Humans had never been good at accepting slavery. President Su Jin-yang stood before the massive crowd gathered in New Olympia, Mars's capital city. The red sky above was filled with ships from across human space, traders, miners, explorers, and soldiers all coming together. Every screen in human territory was showing this moment. Friends, she began, her voice carrying across the plaza and beyond the stars. 3 days ago we received an ultimatum from aliens who call themselves our superiors. They want us to abandon our homes, surrender our freedom, and bow to their rule. The crowd was silent, waiting. I have a message for these aliens, Su Jin continued. We are humans. We came from a world that told us we couldn't survive the cold, so we built fires. It told us we couldn't cross the ocean, so we built ships. It told us we couldn't fly, so we built wings. Every time someone said impossible, we proved them wrong. A cheer rose from the crowd. Su Jin waited for it to die down. Our great-grandparents looked at Mars and saw a dead rock. Today, 5 million people call it home. Our parents looked at empty space and saw highways to the stars. Now human ships travel to dozens of worlds. Commander Tae Min-shin watched the speech from his flagship, the Indomitable. Around him, officers were preparing battle plans. The Terra Defense Force had been created to protect human colonies from pirates and accidents, not alien invasions. But they would have to do. Sir, said his aide, Lieutenant Kyung-ho Park. We've got reports coming in from all the fleet commanders. Everyone's asking the same question. How do we fight something that advanced? Taemin studied the tactical displays. The alien ship was massive, but that might actually be a problem for them. Human ships were built small and fast, designed to work in the asteroid fields and gas clouds where humans had learned to live. Send a message to all commanders, he said. Tell them to remember how we learned to fight pirates in the asteroid belts. Big doesn't always mean better. In the engineering labs of Ceres Station, engineer Hyojung Lim was working on humanity's response to superior alien technology. She had spent her whole career designing ships that could survive in the worst conditions space could offer. Ma'am, said her assistant, Jun-ho Kim. The new armor plating is ready for testing. Hyojung looked at the metal sheets that would soon protect human ships. Unlike alien energy shields that could fail, this armor was designed like human bones. Break it, and it would heal stronger than before. The aliens probably have energy weapons that can punch through normal armor, she said. But this stuff is made from the same materials we use to build habitats on worlds with crushing gravity and toxic atmospheres. Let's see how their fancy weapons handle something designed to survive on a planet that's actively trying to kill you. She thought about Project Defiance, the program she had been secretly working on for years. Every human colony faced unique dangers: solar storms, asteroid impacts, equipment failures in deep space. This had forced human engineers to think differently than anyone else. Jun-ho, start preparing the adaptive systems for combat deployment, she ordered. If the aliens want to fight, they're going to discover that humans don't just survive. We adapt. Back on Mars, President Yang was reaching the climax of her speech. The aliens think they know us because they've watched us for 50 years, she said. But they've only seen us when things were easy. They haven't seen us when our backs are against the wall. They haven't seen us when someone threatens our children. In the crowd, former miner Dong-Hyun Park thought about his family on New Busan Colony. His wife worked as a teacher there, and his son was studying to be an engineer. The thought of aliens forcing them from their home made his blood boil. Around him, other colonists had the same look in their eyes. These weren't professional soldiers, they were farmers, miners, teachers, and shop owners. But they were also the descendants of people who had left everything behind to build new lives among the stars. We've spent 3 centuries learning to live in places that wanted to kill us, Yang continued. We've turned dead rocks into gardens and empty space into highways. We've built cities in asteroid fields and on the moons of gas giants, and these aliens think we'll give it all up because they said so? The crowd roared its defiance. Ambassador Ki Young-nam was preparing humanity's official response in his office on New Seoul Station. As Earth's senior diplomat, he had spent years imagining first contact with alien life. None of his scenarios had involved threats and ultimatums. Ambassador, said his secretary, Ms. Hyerin Cho, the council's deadline is in 27 days. Are you really going to tell them no? Ki Young looked at the formal document he was preparing. It was simple and direct, written in the clearest language possible so there could be no misunderstanding. Herein, my grandfather fought in the water wars on Earth. My father helped build the first permanent base on Luna. I grew up on a space station that shouldn't have been able to exist according to the physics textbooks of a century ago. I've spent my whole life around people who don't know how to give up. He turned to face her. So yes, I'm going to tell them no, but I'm going to be polite about it. The response was broadcast across the galaxy 12 hours later. Ki Young stood before the cameras in his best diplomatic uniform, but his words were anything but diplomatic. To the Galactic Council and Speaker Velthar, we have received your ultimatum demanding that humanity abandon our colonies and submit to your authority. After careful consideration by our elected representatives, we must respectfully decline. The words were calm, but everyone listening could hear the steel beneath them. We are a free people who have worked hard to build our homes among the stars. These colonies were not taken by force or built on the ruins of others. They were carved from empty space and dead rock by human hands and human determination. Ki Young paused, looking directly into the camera. You have demanded that we prove our right to exist. Very well, we accept your challenge. If you want our worlds, you'll have to take them. If you want our submission, you'll have to earn it. If you want our surrender, you'll have to defeat us. The final words echoed across human space and beyond. Come and take it. As the transmission ended, Ki Young thought about what he had just done. Humanity had officially declared that they would fight the most powerful alliance in the galaxy, rather than give up their freedom. He should have been terrified. Instead, he felt proud. Governor Jinwoo Kang watched the alien ships approach New Busan Colony through the command center's main screen. 3 sleek vessels, each larger than the colony's biggest building, moved through space like hunting sharks. They had arrived exactly 30 days after the ultimatum, just as promised. How many people are still on the surface? He asked. Civilian evacuation is 90% complete, reported Colonel Yuri Bay. We've moved most families to the underground shelters and the mining stations in the asteroid belt. But sir, we've got about 3,000 volunteers who refuse to leave. Jinwoo wasn't surprised. New Busan had been built by stubborn people who had spent 20 years turning a frozen rock into a home. They weren't going to abandon it without a fight. What about our defenses? Honestly, sir, we've got mining equipment, construction robots, and about 50 security officers with small arms. We weren't exactly built for war. The first alien ship entered orbit around New Busan. It was beautiful in a cold way, with smooth curves and no visible weapons. But Jinwoo knew it could probably destroy the entire colony without effort. A transmission came through. The same alien from the original ultimatum appeared on their screens. Humans of New Busan, Speaker Velthar said, you have had 30 days to evacuate this world. Sensors show you have not complied. You will leave now, or we will force you to leave. Jinwoo stepped forward. This is Governor Jinwoo Kang. These people chose to build their lives here. We won't be forced from our homes. The alien's expression didn't change. Then you have chosen death. You have 1 hour to reconsider. The transmission ended. Well, said Colonel Bay, that could have gone better. 3 hours away in the asteroid field, pilot Dong-Hyun Park was leading a small fleet of mining ships toward the colony. When the evacuation order came, most civilians had run, but Dong-hyun and 24 other miners had a different idea. "Okay, everyone," he said over the radio. "Remember, these aren't warships. They're mining vessels with some extra equipment bolted on. The aliens probably don't even consider us a threat." "Good," replied Captain Yoon-soo Lee from her salvage ship, "because I've been cutting up asteroids for 15 years. Let's see how their fancy hulls handle a plasma torch." Dong-hyun smiled grimly. The alien ships were designed for space combat against other warships. But the asteroid field around New Busan was where humans had learned to work and live. It was full of floating rocks, ice chunks, and metal debris. Perfect cover for small, fast ships that knew every hiding spot. "Remember," he told his people, "we're not trying to win. We're trying to hurt them, make them pay for every inch." Back on New Busan, the alien attack began exactly 1 hour later. Energy beams struck the colony's main buildings, turning metal and stone into glowing vapor. But the colonists had learned from 20 years of asteroid impacts and solar storms. Most of their important structures were underground. "Damage report," called Colonel Bay from the Underground Command Center. "Surface installations are gone," reported Sergeant Min-jun Kim. "But life support is still running, and the civilian shelters are intact. They're hitting us hard, but we're still here." Above them, the alien ships moved in perfect formation, systematically destroying everything they could see. It was efficient and overwhelming, just like the aliens probably expected most battles to be. That's when Dong-hyun's miners struck. The first alien ship never saw the plasma torch that cut through its engine section. Dong-hyun's ship, Lucky Strike, shot out from behind a spinning asteroid and raked the alien vessel with cutting beams designed to slice through solid rock. "Target hit," Dong-hyun shouted. "They're bleeding atmosphere!" The aliens reacted quickly, turning their weapons toward the asteroid field. But energy beams that could destroy buildings weren't much use against targets hiding behind rocks and moving unpredictably. Captain Yoon-soo Lee came at the second alien ship from a different angle. Her salvage vessel Hardworker using magnetic grapples to hurl chunks of metal ore at the enemy. The improvised weapon struck the alien hull like cannonballs. "This is insane," laughed pilot Ji-won Chang from his ore hauler. "We're fighting spaceships with mining equipment." But it was working. The aliens had expected to face primitive human warships in open space. Instead, they were fighting a swarm of small, tough vessels that knew every hiding place in a three-dimensional maze of floating rocks. The battle turned when Captain So-young Kim made her choice. Her transport ship Gangnam Runner was the largest vessel in the human fleet, designed to carry passengers between colonies. It was also completely unarmed. "All ships, this is So-young," she called over the radio. "I'm going to ram the lead alien ship. When I do, hit them with everything you've got." "So-young, no," Dong-hyun shouted. "You've got nowhere near enough armor for that." "Maybe not," she replied calmly. "But I've got enough mass, and sometimes that's all you need." The Gangnam Runner shot out from behind New Busan's largest moon, accelerating directly toward the alien flagship. The enemy ship tried to turn away, but So-young had timed her attack perfectly. The transport ship struck the alien vessel amidships, both ships disappearing in a ball of fire and twisted metal. For New Busan, So-young's final words echoed across the radio. The remaining human ships pressed their attack. Without their flagship's coordination, the alien formation fell apart. The second alien ship tried to retreat, but ran into a trap Dong-hyun had prepared. Cargo containers full of explosive mining charges, floating dark and invisible until they detonated. The third alien ship managed to escape, but not before taking heavy damage from the miners' cutting tools. As the battle ended, Dong-hyun looked around at what was left of his small fleet. Half the ships were gone and most of the rest were damaged. But they had done something nobody thought possible. They had hurt the aliens. "New Busan Control, this is Dong-hyun Park. The alien fleet is retreating. Colony is secure." Governor Jinwoo's voice came back, filled with amazement. "Dong-hyun, how did you do it? Those ships were massive." "Size isn't everything, Governor. We've been working in this asteroid field for 20 years. We know every rock, every hiding place, every way in and out. The aliens might have better technology, but this is our home." Down on the colony surface, Colonel Bay was receiving reports from across New Busan. The aliens had destroyed most of the surface buildings, but the underground cities were intact. More importantly, only a dozen people had been killed thanks to the evacuation. "Sir," said Sergeant Kim, "we're getting transmissions from other human colonies. They all want to know how we beat the aliens." Jinwoo thought about that. Tell them the truth. We didn't beat them because we were stronger or had better weapons. We beat them because we fought like humans, smart, stubborn, and willing to sacrifice everything for our homes. As rescue ships arrived to help with repairs, Jinwoo looked at the wreckage floating in space around New Busan. The alien ships had been torn apart by mining equipment and transport vessels. It should have been impossible, but humans had always been good at doing impossible things. Admiral Wan-Ho Lee stood in the salvage bay of the research station Discovery, studying pieces of the alien ship that had been destroyed at New Busan. The metal was unlike anything humans had ever seen. It seemed to repair itself when damaged, and it generated its own energy somehow. "What have you found, Dr. Cho?" he asked. Dr. Yunji Cho looked up from her analysis equipment. "Something interesting, Admiral. This technology is incredibly advanced, but it's also completely standardized. Every component is built exactly the same way, following the same design principles." "What does that mean?" "It means the aliens don't innovate anymore. They found designs that work and then stopped changing them. Look at this energy weapon. It's probably thousands of years old, but they've never improved it because it was already good enough." Wan-Ho frowned. "Good enough for what?" "For fighting other aliens who use the exact same technology. Sir, I don't think the Galactic Council has fought a real war in centuries. They just show up with overwhelming force and their enemies surrender." This was important news. Wan-Ho had been wondering how humanity could possibly fight 47 advanced alien civilizations. Now he was starting to understand. They weren't fighting 47 different enemies. They were fighting one enemy that had 47 different faces. "Doctor, how quickly can you get this information to our weapons designers?" "Already done, sir. I sent the data to every human research station an hour ago." While Dr. Cho analyzed alien technology, Seok-Jin Han was organizing something the aliens had never encountered before: a resistance movement made of ordinary people. Seok-Jin had spent 15 years mining asteroids before the war started. Now he was hiding in the caves of Kepler 438b, coordinating with human civilians on 12 different worlds that the aliens had occupied. "Maria Station, this is underground. What's your status?" He spoke into his hidden radio. The reply came from Eugene Park, a former teacher who was now leading the resistance on Maria Station. "We've got 40 volunteers ready to move. The aliens are setting up some kind of processing center in the main dome. We think they're planning to move the population somewhere else." "Understood. Wait for my signal, then hit them with everything you've got. Remember, we're not trying to win battles. We're trying to make them afraid to leave their ships." Seok-Jin had learned something important in his first weeks of fighting the aliens. They were incredibly powerful when they could use their advanced weapons and ships, but when they had to come down to the ground and deal with humans face to face, they became much less dangerous. "Jin A Station report," he called. "This is Min-Ho Kwan," came the reply. "We've sabotaged 3 of their supply drops and rescued 50 people from their prison facility. The aliens are getting frustrated. They keep asking why we won't just surrender." Seok-Jin smiled. That was the question the aliens couldn't understand. They came from civilizations where individuals didn't matter much. When their leaders said surrender, everyone surrendered. But humans were different. "Because it's our home," he said simply. "Underground out." On Earth, General Haewon Choi was planning humanity's first major counterattack. The victory at New Busan had shown that human tactics could work against alien technology. Now it was time to prove it on a larger scale. "Operation Sunrise will target 3 systems simultaneously," she explained to her staff. "The aliens won't expect coordinated attacks across such a wide area. They're used to fighting one battle at a time." Her aide, Colonel Joo-hee Park, studied the battle plans. "Ma'am, we're still outnumbered 50 to 1 in most of these systems. How do we deal with that?" "We don't fight their strengths, Colonel. We fight their weaknesses." Dr. Cho's analysis shows that alien ships can't adapt during battle. Once they start using a tactic, they stick with it even if it's not working. Haewon pointed to the tactical display. Human ships can change their weapons, their formation, even their mission parameters while fighting. We're going to use that flexibility to confuse them. The first part of Operation Sunrise began at the Tau Ceti system, where 20 alien ships were blockading the human colony of New Seoul. Commander Tae Min-shin led a mixed fleet of warships, transports, and mining vessels toward the blockade. "Remember," he told his pilots, "we're not military vessels in formation. We're a disorganized group of civilian ships trying to run the blockade. Make it look desperate. The aliens reacted exactly as expected. Their ships moved to intercept what looked like a panicked evacuation fleet. But as they approached, the civilian ships suddenly coordinated into a complex attack formation. Mining ships that had looked defenseless revealed hidden weapons. Transport vessels that should have been running away instead launched surprise attacks. Cargo haulers opened their holds and released swarms of automated defense drones. "Contact!"
Contact!
called pilot Sujin Kim from her disguised fighter. "The aliens are breaking formation. They don't know how to respond to our ship types." At the same time, similar battles were starting at Wolf 359 and Proxima Centauri. The aliens had expected humans to fight like they did, with clearly marked warships in predictable formations. Instead, they faced an enemy that could turn any vessel into a weapon and any formation into a trap. Dr. Yoonji Cho watched the battles from her laboratory, monitoring the quantum communication network she had developed. Unlike the aliens' slower-than-light communications, her system allowed instant coordination across light years of space. "Admiral Lee," she called. "I'm getting reports from all 3 battle zones. The alien fleets are requesting reinforcements, but they're not coordinating with each other. Each fleet commander thinks he's facing a local problem." One host smiled. "They don't understand that humans can fight as one force across multiple star systems. How long before they figure it out? At their current communication speed? Maybe 6 hours. But by then, Operation Sunrise will be over." The battles raged for 4 hours. When they ended, humanity had retaken 3 star systems and destroyed over 60 alien ships. More importantly, they had proven that the Galactic Council could be beaten. But the real victory was psychological. For the first time, the aliens were afraid. Speaker Velthar studied the battle reports in his command chamber, trying to understand how primitive humans had defeated Council fleets. The numbers didn't make sense. Human ships were smaller and less powerful, but they had fought like no species the Council had ever encountered. How did they coordinate attacks across such distances? He asked his tactical officer. "Unknown, Speaker. Our intelligence suggests they should not have faster-than-light communication technology. And their ship types, some vessels appeared to be civilian craft, but they fought like warships." "Again, unknown, Speaker. Perhaps humans do not distinguish between military and civilian vessels as we do." Velthar felt something he had not experienced in centuries: doubt. The Council had ruled the galaxy for millennia because their methods always worked. Overwhelming force, superior technology, and intimidation had never failed. But humans were different. They fought without following the rules. They turned weaknesses into strengths and civilians into soldiers. They adapted so quickly that battle plans became obsolete while the fighting was still happening. For the first time since the war began, Velthar wondered if the Council had made a mistake in threatening these strange creatures. Chief Engineer Myung-Soo Jeon watched the final test of humanity's newest weapon with nervous excitement. In the shipyard orbiting Luna, the prototype vessel Soul's Vengeance hung in space like no ship that had ever been built. "All systems are green," reported his assistant, Hiron Lee. "The adaptive armor is responding to commands, and the modular weapon systems are ready for reconfiguration." Myung-Soo nodded. For 6 months he had been working on a radical idea. What if human ships could change themselves during battle? Not just their tactics or formations, but their actual structure and capabilities. "Begin the transformation test," he ordered. The ship began to change. Armor plates shifted and reformed. Weapon mounts moved to new positions. The engine configuration altered to provide different thrust patterns. In 5 minutes, the Soul's Vengeance had become a completely different type of vessel. "Incredible," breathed Captain Ye Jian-ro, who would command the ship in its first battle. "It's like the ship is alive." "In a way it is," Myung-Soo replied. "We've learned to build machines that adapt and evolve just like living things. The aliens might have superior firepower, but we have something they don't: the ability to become whatever we need to be." The first test of the new technology came sooner than anyone expected. The alien fleet had finally reached Earth's solar system, intent on ending human resistance by destroying humanity's homeworld. Admiral Dae-ho Kim stood on the bridge of New Seoul Station, watching the massive alien armada approach. 300 ships, each larger than anything humanity had built. "It should have been hopeless." "Sir," called Lieutenant Yuna Park. "Captain Rowe reports the Soul's Vengeance is ready for combat. She's requesting permission to engage. One ship against 300? Daeho shook his head. Tell her to wait for support. But Captain Yejin Ro had other ideas. The Soul's vengeance shot out from behind Earth's moon, accelerating toward the alien fleet at impossible speed. The enemy ships immediately targeted her, firing energy weapons that could have destroyed any normal vessel. Instead, something amazing happened. The ship's armor absorbed the first hits and immediately began adapting. The second volley was less effective. By the third, the energy weapons were barely scratching the hull. How is that possible? Demanded Admiral Daeho Kim. Dr. Yoonji Cho, monitoring from her lab, provided the answer. The ship's armor is learning from each attack and adjusting its composition. It's like biological evolution but happening in real time. The Soul's vengeance dove into the alien formation, its weapon systems reconfiguring constantly. Plasma cannons became particle beams. Missile launchers transformed into electromagnetic pulse generators. The aliens couldn't predict what weapons they would face from one moment to the next. This is impossible, muttered Alien Fleet Commander Zarvex as he watched his carefully planned battle formation fall apart. How can one ship counter our entire tactical doctrine? His tactical officer was equally confused. Sir, the human vessel appears to be changing its weapon systems faster than our computers can analyze them. Our defensive protocols can't adapt quickly enough. The human ship was doing something the aliens had never seen. It was becoming a perfect counter to whatever they threw at it. Energy shields. The ship switched to kinetic weapons. Armor plating? It used plasma cutters. Electronic countermeasures? It employed pure analog systems. But the real surprise came when more human ships arrived. The entire Terra Defense Force emerged from the asteroid belt, and every vessel was equipped with the new adaptive technology. Commander Taimin Shin led the fleet charge in his flagship Indomitable. All ships demonstrate our new capabilities. Show them what human engineering can do. The battle became a display of human adaptability versus alien rigidity. The Council ships followed their standard tactics, assuming that once they identified human weapon types and defensive capabilities, they could counter them. But human ships kept changing. A destroyer would start the battle as a fast attack craft, then transform into a heavy cruiser when it needed more firepower. Transport ships revealed themselves to be disguised carriers, launching swarms of adaptive fighter craft. Even cargo vessels joined the fight, their holds opening to release clouds of self-modifying combat. Drones. Intelligence Chief Minho Kwan was coordinating the psychological warfare aspect of the battle from his command center on Mars. He had learned something important about the aliens. They were terrified of unpredictability. Attention. Alien fleet, he broadcast. You came here expecting to fight the same kind of war you've always fought. But humans don't fight that way. We don't follow your rules. We make our own. The broadcast was followed by images from across human space. Civilian miners destroying alien warships, teachers leading resistance movements, children building weapons from spare parts. Every image showed the same thing, humans refusing to be victims. You've ruled the galaxy for thousands of years by being stronger than everyone else, Minho continued. But strength isn't everything. Intelligence, creativity, and determination matter too. And those are things humans have in abundance. The turning point came when Captain Joo-hee Park led the Liberation Fleet to New Busan. The aliens had occupied the colony for months, but they had never understood how to deal with human resistance. This is Captain Park to New Busan Resistance, she called. We're here to take back your home. Seok Jin-han's voice crackled back from the surface. About time. We've been keeping their ground forces busy, but we could use some help with their ships. The liberation of New Busan became a perfect example of human warfare at its best. Space forces attacked from above while resistance fighters struck from below. Adaptive ships countered alien technology while civilian volunteers used improvised weapons to devastating effect. The aliens found themselves fighting an enemy that refused to be categorized. Were the humans using civilian ships or military vessels? Were they fighting an organized army or scattered guerrilla groups? Were they facing advanced technology or primitive improvisation? The answer was yes to all of these questions, and that was something the alien mind couldn't process. As the battle for Earth's solar system ended with complete human victory, Speaker Velthar found himself in an unprecedented situation. For the first time in Council history, a major fleet had been defeated by an inferior force. How do we explain this to the council? Asked his aide. Belthar studied the tactical reports, trying to understand what had happened. Human ships that changed their capabilities during battle, weapons that evolved to counter alien defenses, tactics that made no sense according to military doctrine but somehow worked perfectly. We tell them the truth, he said finally. We underestimated these humans. They don't fight like any species we've ever encountered. They don't follow our rules, and that makes them nearly impossible to defeat. So what do? Velthar looked at the images of destroyed council ships floating around Earth. The humans had proven they could defend their home. More importantly, they had proven they could adapt to any challenge. We consider the possibility that the council has made a mistake, he said slowly. Perhaps these humans deserve a place among the stars after all.